So, what if the biggest secret in human history has nothing to do with aliens from other planets, but everything to do with visitors from our very own future? Today, we're diving deep into Project Aquarius, an alleged leaked document that claims to blow the lid off the truth from a secret base, a place they call the dark side of the moon.
And it all starts with this one quote from the man at the very center of the story, Dr. Dan Burisch. "I have never met an alien, but I have met an extraterrestrial." Now that might sound like just wordplay, but that little distinction, well, that's the whole secret. That's what Project Aquarius was supposedly designed to protect.
All right, so let's get into it. Who exactly is this guy who claims he worked side by side with a being not from another world, but from another time? Well, the document paints Dan Burisch as a true prodigy. I mean, from a young age, he was obsessed with microscopy. But get this, he was recruited by what's called a secret government and was basically living a double life. On the surface, he's a parole officer, but behind the scenes, he's a top-tier scientist and a biowarfare expert. It's this really unique mix of skills that supposedly made him the one and only choice for a project that was, well, completely out of this world. And that path led him right here. In 1994, he's brought into Project Aquarius. He gets stationed at this super-secret facility just south of Area 51, a place with the very ominous nickname, the Dark Side of the Moon.
So you're probably wondering, what's it actually like inside a place like this? Well, the account describes a journey that started with a pretty strange ritual.
The trip always started on a white, unmarked Janet 737. And here's a bizarre little detail from the account. On every single flight, the song Coming to America played on repeat. Now, was that just some pilot's quirky sense of humor? Or was it a kind of symbolic welcome for beings literally coming to America?
And getting inside? Wow. It was not simple. We're talking about protocols that were absolutely extreme, all designed to make sure nothing and no one ever got out without authorization. They even weighed you on the way in and on the way out. And the guards? They supposedly had shoot-to-kill orders if you so much as stepped over the red lines painted on the floor.
So once you're finally inside, Burisch says he got this incredible tour, basically a garage filled with extraterrestrial and reverse-engineered technology. In the first bay, he saw what's known as the Sport Model, a craft they linked to a group of beings called the P-45 J-Rods.
Then, in another bay, under a simple tarp, he was told was the actual original craft from the famous 1947 Roswell incident. The source material even claims that technology from this exact vehicle was reverse-engineered right into the F-22 Raptor.
And the variety of tech was just staggering. In another bay, he saw a vehicle that looked nothing like a flying saucer. He described it as looking like a Jell-O mold. This one belonged to a totally different group known as the Orions.
But here's the thing. This base wasn't just a garage for UFOs. It was the home of a captive visitor. And this visitor was the entire reason Dan was there. It was his primary assignment.
Now, to really get what his job was, we have to rewind to a 1953 crash in Kingman, Arizona. According to this document, two different types of beings survived that crash. One, a P-45 J-Rod, was supposedly more aggressive and was shipped off to Los Alamos. But the other, a P-52 J-Rod, was described as a diplomat, and it was looking for medical help. And that was the being that Dan Burisch was brought in to work with.
Now, all of Burisch's work with this being took place inside this absolutely incredible facility called the Clean Sphere. It was this massive quartz dome, a totally sterile lab where he would work under the watchful eyes of high-ranking officials, supposedly members of the legendary Majestic 12 group.
And this is where this story gets really personal. Burisch met the being he would eventually come to know as Chila. His mission on paper was purely scientific. Take hundreds of tissue samples to try and find a cure for the being's terrible nerve disease. But a telepathic link supposedly formed between them, and with every single sample he took, Burisch claims he felt the exact same agonizing pain as the J-Rod. It was through this shared pain that this strange, unexpected friendship began to grow.
And this really unlikely friendship, it led to a revelation so unbelievably shocking, it redefines not just our future, but our entire past.
During one of their sessions, Chila completely broke protocol. He rushed towards Burisch, who fell over. The J-Rod then climbed right onto his chest and started what Burisch could only describe as a massive, direct download of information straight into his mind, revealing the secret history and future of the entire human race.
And here's the kicker. Incredibly, everything the J-Rod showed him in that mental download was supposedly confirmed by a top-secret device they had at S4. It was called the Looking Glass, and it was a machine that could literally visualize probabilities in time, letting scientists peek into possible futures and pasts. So you put it all together, the information from the J-Rod and the data from the Looking Glass, and it all pointed to one, just mind-bending truth. The ultimate secret. The big reason for all the cover-ups, it wasn't about aliens from other worlds. It was that these visitors, they were human. They were us, from a distant, divergent future.
Okay, so here's the future history he's supposedly learned. In our near future, a massive solar event causes a global catastrophe. After that, humanity splits and evolves down two totally different paths. Over thousands of years, one group becomes the beings we call the J-Rods, and they leave for Zeta Reticuli. The other becomes the Orions, and they head for the Orion constellation. And then, they travel back in time to our present, trying to fix the genetic damage from that original catastrophe, creating this insane looping paradox.
So, armed with this staggering knowledge, Burisch's role completely transformed. He went from being a scientist to an accomplice in one final, desperate mission, to send his friend Allah home.
The plan, according to the document, involved something straight out of science fiction, a Stargate device. It was supposedly reverse-engineered from ancient Sumerian cylinder seals and could tap into natural wormholes, connecting distant points in both space and time.
So, picture this. It's 2003. They're near the Abydos Temple in Egypt. A wormhole is opened so Chela can talk to his people, but he starts pleading with Burisch to send him all the way through. So, in a split-second decision, breaking every single rule and putting his own life on the line, Burisch shoves the container holding his friend right into the active Stargate.
Burisch was thrown back violently by the energy field, but Chiela's container, it went through. The source material says he'd likely made it back to his own time and place, but the final official outcome, well, it remains a complete mystery.
You know, this whole incredible account, whether you see it as 100% fact or just a wild piece of fiction, was supposedly released as a test. The document itself claims that its release is a deliberate first step in disclosure, just to see how we'd all react. And it leaves every single one of us with one final, very important question to think about.